Bedford, perfectly placed to take advantage of that, owing to his all-wheel drive, same as Mick Porter behind. Both of those with maximum grip to deploy in these very greasy conditions. It's something we've discussed a lot. A lot of the drivers today have chimed in about this during the interviews as well, that these are amongst the most difficult conditions to drive in. When it's a little bit greasy, a little bit wet, some of it's dry. It's like you're driving two different racetracks. And back the first time this year with the Noble M12. This year we've seen him compete mainly in the Solar Motorsport. And so our pro cars now head on to the circuit, Snetterton 200 for the final time today. This is the final, this is the big point scoring session. Let's see what our pro cars can do. Tim Bedford there in the blue Subaru Impreza, who was just speaking with Susie in the pit lane a little earlier today. In fact, just during the last session. Very, very quick guy indeed, and a welcome addition to the TimeAttack family. A rotary, it is in fact. Here we go, Tim Bedford doing what Tim Bedford does best, getting that perfect little amount of slip, and again, that Subaru Impreza, absolutely loving these conditions, and it's something that we've seen all season. Very comfortable with that car, very comfortable to attack, and even in these conditions, absolutely unfazed. If it slips, he'll catch it. There we go, getting nice and sideways, keeping it tidy, and across the line he comes, past the pit lane, and there he goes, down the pit wall, nice and tight, to seal in another lap time. Does he go any of the actual cup car, as seen on the racing circuits of the world from a few years ago? Meanwhile, Tim Bedford in the blue Subaru Impreza, the WRC-inspired build, zooming down the pit lane with that well-known Subaru Burble, getting very close to the wall, and he's been really spectacular to watch all day. Chassis to use in TimeAttack, where we had, you know, the usual Evos and Imprezas, but we also had quite a few Skylines and GTRs in the mix as well. Those days are sadly gone, so when we do get both of our Skylines in attendance, that is really a highlight for me, because I'm a big fan of that chassis, as I'm sure a lot of people are. Here we have Tim Bedford on your screens now in the blue Subaru Impreza, running a little bit wide, jumping over that curb there, wearing that World Rally Championship style aero, and actually generally spec, and making the most of that and driving to a World Rally Championship style as well, jumping it over the dirt and getting very sideways in the wet too. So Tim Bedford, as always, a real joy to watch this year. You can see him getting a tiny bit of slip there, the rear end just coming around, but keeping things nice and tidy. So clearly that car and driver dialed in for a bit of an oversteer preference, steering with the rear, but not enough to get out of shape, but just enough to point the car in the right direction, which is a beautiful way of handling an all-wheel drive machine in the wet. They do permit you to do that. You rotate with your inertia and your weight. You can allow it a little bit of slip and then just jump on the power and pull yourself out very carefully. There's something Andy York said in particular which caught my attention, and it totally embodies the TimeAttack approach, where I know what he meant was in terms of stock internals, but he said it's a stock engine, only turbocharged. And that made me think, oh my goodness, you know, in TimeAttack lingo, turbocharging your engine is still like a stock engine. Just because you haven't opened it up, it's still stock, right? And technically that's correct. But I know of people who will like put on an air filter onto their car and be like, yeah, this is a highly modified, race-tuned machine, bro. And whereas there you have people like Andy York who are running a literal engine-swapped turbocharged machine and are like, well, yeah, this is basically stock because I haven't opened it up. And I just love that attitude of TimeAttack where the builds go so far that you can turbocharge an engine and still call it stock because the block essentially, oh my goodness, Tim Bedford doing that thing. Which is a bit confusing. Never mind. Here comes Tim Bedford of the Richard Henry Motorsports Subaru Impreza, running without the WRC style wing that we saw in the last few rounds. It'd be interesting to know why that is. Maybe they've decided this is a low downforce circuit and they didn't need that massive device on the rear of its car. Those of you who've been following, you'll have seen that car in previous events with a really unconventional for circuit motorsport rally-style, multi-elemented, kind of like a cone-shaped spoiler on the back of that machine. For Brands Hatch, it is running with a clean rear end, no downforce, no drag as such either, and perhaps that's the setup they decided was the best for today. With the final 4 seconds of the session, here we go, 2, 1, and the checkered flag comes out. Fastest of all, then, so far, is Duncan Cowper, who crosses the line, actually he's in the pit lane, with his fastest of all with a 50 point, quite a little bit, because I'm sure that was a really quite a hair-rising ride to his 48.9 second lap time here at Brands Hatch. Now on your screens you will see the cars of Tim Bedford and Matt Newing, the blue Subaru Impreza and the grey Mitsubishi Evolution. That grudge match of the ages between these two fast, rally-bred, all-wheel drive machines. That fight spilling out into TimeAttack as well. Big pop of flame from Tim Bedford. Matt Newing running, oh my goodness, here he goes, he's running off, now he's sideways, oh my goodness, into the wall he goes.